G'day and welcome to the Bloody Aussie Battler podcast with your host and fellow battler, Mike Holt. The Bloody Aussie Battler brings you news, views and interviews as we discuss what the liars, thieves, criminals and traitors have been doing to our country and to Western democracies around the world. My guests discuss important issues and explain why and how it's time to drain the billabong to bring back decent, lawful, moral government that will serve we, the people of the Commonwealth of Australia. Join us now on the Bloody Aussie Battler.
Are you interested in podcasts that uncover the truth? Tune into Widdershins podcast. Straight from science fiction, we uncover the technologies being developed right under our noses. We bring to you the world's leading scientists, engineers and experts to discover just how far away these things really are from becoming our reality. www.widdershinspodcast.com.
Dick Yardley's book, Australian Political and Religious Leaders, Treason, Treachery and Sabotage. Dick exposes how Whitlam, Hawke, Keating, Goss, Rudd and all the other Fabians have destroyed our manufacturing and agriculture. If you want to know exactly how they have done it, get Dick's book at advanceaustralia.com.au and click on merchandise. Knowledge is power. Get the power to fight the corruption today. G'day again, and today I've got Kevin Annett with me from Canada. We've spoken to Kevin before, but Kevin, you issued some very big news this week, so why don't we start off by you telling us what that's about. But before we do, welcome to the show.
Thanks, it's always good to be here. Yeah, we in Canada, for a number of years, as you know, we've been establishing a different jurisdiction under common law that people can be part of, because it wasn't just in anticipation of what's coming now, but it gives people an alternative to the system and encouraging them to be self-governing and take action. Well, now with the boot coming down, it's very important that people go from words to action. So the first thing is to defend people. And we put out a notice this week, which you can see at murderbydecree.com under ITCCS updates. And what that is a call to people to start taking action in their communities by getting their common law sheriffs to defend people who are being targeted by the government. And this is now, it's getting so crazy in North America that a statute just came out yesterday in Canada that said you could be fined $1,000 now for hugging in public, if you can believe this.
Oh, I can believe it. They're doing it here too.
Yeah. Okay, so it's as we know, part of a whole global plan. But people have to know that there's a way to defend themselves and not give in to fear. And so we're really kind of trying to activate people. What's been theory up till now, we're trying to put it into practice and give an example to show that people don't have to go along with this. So that's kind of people can read that notice for themselves and see about what we're talking about.
Okay, so just give us a few examples then. What can we do to protect ourselves from these people?
Well, for one thing, we're saying we've got to keep it very real. So we go to the police, and we've already been doing this, and we say to them, we're not posing any kind of health threat. If you do any kind of research on your own, you'll see that this threat is very exaggerated. It's not airborne. It's got a death rate about 10% less than the normal flu virus that one gets during the year, certain times of the year. And so we're educating the police and saying, we're calling you not to be used against people for these other agendas. And if you do take these actions, we're going to resist you. And so it's kind of a friendly invitation to be part of, get on the right side of this and to help the people and not oppress them. But there's other things too, like we're setting up support networks, so that if you know, we have a network of safe houses, we have ways to get people into hiding. More prominent people have already been targeted. We've had a number of people in our network already picked up by the police. So it's kind of a practical issue of defense.
So the police are actually working with you and helping you to do this?
There's some, the best results we get is in America and our allied groups there, where they've actually had county sheriffs agree to, you know, come to common law workshops and to consider what's going on instead of just mindlessly obeying orders from the government, right, about this stuff.
We were going to talk too about my application to become a common law sheriff. And this morning you emailed me and said that actually we don't need to wait for the ITCCS, we can do it ourselves here. So can you just walk me through very briefly how that would work?
Well, it's true. The tribunal has been kind of reorganizing because a number of their people were picked up, so they've had to take some new security measures and slow down what they do. But in that sense, people can deputize their own sheriffs. They can accredit themselves, and one of the ways we do that, there's different ways to do it. The best way to do it is to get a charter of 12 men and women who actually form a common law assembly, and they themselves can then elect their own sheriffs. That's kind of constitutionally the way to do it. If it's more of an emergency, then I would simply urge people to read what's in the common law training manual that we produce, and you know, accredit somebody who not only has a knowledge of the law but is able to keep their head and keep cool. And you need these personal qualities to be a sheriff, to deputize others, you know, to be real peacekeepers and not you know, who's some, well, you know, you've got to use common sense and judgment, right, in all these situations. So yeah, there's definitely a way to do that, but the best way to do it, if you have 12 men and women, we have a charter that you sign, and then, you know, legally you can then appoint your own peace officers. Okay,
that sounds good. We'll look into that. Because my business partner down in Adelaide is desperate to get this all moving, because he's got indictments out against these people, and it's time to start moving on it. So we do need. Well,
eventually, you know, the idea, Mike, too, about the common law sheriffs is that eventually what we need is community policing. We need like citizen militias that can protect their own communities. And the sheriff is really key to that, because they can, you know, legally bring those things about. In the old, it's based on out of England, the old shire system, where the sheriff was actually somebody who could establish courts. They have a lot of power, and so that's the idea. They're kind of like the tip of the spear in a lot of this work.
Okay, so once we have the sheriffs and we start issuing indictments from the grand jury, what happens then?
Well, you need the structure of the court set up, and of course the basis of it is really the jury and the citizen prosecutor who leads the case. Yeah, I mean, you know the details of your own case the best, so you'd have to decide how best to do that. But the idea is that you make it very public. You put out a notice of claim. This is the action you're bringing. You call for witnesses and people to stand as jury members. And you serve these warrants on the people who you're naming. It's got to be individuals. You can't just name a system or a government or something. You've got to have individuals who are named in the indictment, and back it up with evidence.
All right, so moving on now, Kevin. What's going on in Canada with regards to the coronavirus? Are you getting such stringent restrictions imposed on you as we are here?
Well, it's pretty ridiculous. And, you know, of course, the so-called Commonwealth countries have integrated police and intel network. Australia, New Zealand, Canada, England, whoever else, you know, the major Commonwealth countries. So undoubtedly it's the same process in both our nations, but it's getting really extreme now. They're talking in Canada, they basically dissolve the government. Out of 338 members of parliament, there are only 32 were present. That's like 10% quorum all of a sudden. And the prime minister is in seclusion. I believe, under house arrest, under a fake story of being self-quarantined. His wife just happened to be sick. And the small executive council has taken over. They're the quote Queen's Privy Council. And they're issuing all these laws, including power to tax without Parliament being in session. Now, that's why the English Revolution happened in the 1640s, because the king was trying to do that, tax without going to the people. And, it's like all of these medieval things are being revived in the Spirit campaign. Part of the taxation is going to be to pay for a huge bailout. They're giving $55 billion to China, to the PetroChina, and these other Asian corporations operate in Canada. So the guys of this health scare, they're just robbing people and doing it dictatorially. But they're keeping people afraid on the ground. They just brought in a statute that you can be fined $1,000 for hugging in public. It's absurd, right? So,
unfortunately, in these times, we seem to be ruled by absurd people with absurd ideas, and nobody's standing up to say, hey, you can't do that because we have inherent rights. And this is the problem, of course. People don't know what their rights are. And I guess it's up to you and me to,
right.
and many others, of course, to help educate people. But it's a long, hard process, isn't it?
Yeah, but this is backfiring on them. We find that these extreme measures always get a lot of people upset, very upset, and wanting to learn. They're more open. Sometimes you need these things to wake people up more, right? To see that, no, this is a police state they're imposing, and it's already happening. So I found, basic information. Like, I remember standing in the store and people were forced to stand apart, and I said to them, this is not airborne, right? And the death rate is lower than the normal flu. So what is this all about? Just planting seeds of questioning and doubt, right, in their minds. And but some of the important evidence coming out now, we have like these a whole network of health physicians, right, who are like naturopathic physicians. They've done a lot of research into this. The coronavirus has been around a long time. It's not especially lethal, but it is lethal when it combines with the 5G system. So we think it was designed out of China as a bioweapon, so that you find in Wuhan, where it all started, has the highest 5G installation of any city in the world. Because what the 5G does is saps oxygen out of the blood. The electromagnetic system, it deprives the brain of oxygen, so people fall down, literally. So there are these hotspots where the virus does affect a lot of people, but that's because a lot of 5G is present. So they designed this bioweapon to hit like military facilities where there's lots of 5G, but not the people outside the military facilities. It's targeted.
Pandora's box.
Right, it's targeted 5G installation. So it's not a virus per se, it's a virus plus 5G. And so they're, of course, not telling anyone that.
The problem is, how do we prove this? People look at you and go, nah, that can't be true. But when you've got so many experts coming out and saying the same thing, and it's pretty obvious what's going on, how do we prove it?
Well, the evidence is there. It's like what I found doing the work over the years about genocide and child trafficking and murder. It's not so much evidence or lack of it, it's people's unwillingness to believe. Because they're caught it when you're in the fear mode of the brain, your conscious thinking, critical thinking shuts down. But that only lasts for so long. And we find it's like when a country goes to war, everyone's waving the flags in the first year or whatever. And then the reality kicks in and people go, wait a minute. And usually in history, you find a revolution will break out by the very same people who've been waving the flags, because, it can swing to its opposite extreme. And so these rulers are playing with fire now. They're potentially sowing seeds of their own destruction by doing this. We got to just keep at it and keep educating people and say, there's an alternative here. That's why we're saying to people, you don't have to sit idly by, you can take action. And that gives people confidence, right? And hope.
This is true. And that's why we came up with that 5-point plan in our Advance Australia website. And I'll put the link up here. But, if we're going to move forward, we need a plan first. And while my plan may not be perfect, I don't see anybody else's plans around for the future. We're all sort of reacting rather than being proactive. And I think if we're going to move forward, we have to be proactive.
Absolutely. Now's the time to give a vision of what something else could be, because that's what attracts people. And we're not just reacting, because how much can you do when you just react, right? I mean, it's like Sun Tzu says in The Art of War, a battle is won before it's ever fought by whoever picks the terrain of battle and defines the battle themselves. And we have to define what the issue is and not let them do it, right?
That's right. Yeah. All right, mate. I thank you very much for coming on board. And as usual, if you've always got these pearls of wisdom, so welcome back anytime.
We'll stay in touch for sure. We've got to, especially these days.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
The sheriff asked me why I started the fight. It didn't take much, she didn't do right. I saw my baby a hugging and a kissing. She didn't know I just got out of prison. I stormed on over to give him a fright. And that, my friends, is how I started the fight. Well, the man she was with threw on the floor. That just riled me up even more. I fainted with my right from under his gun. I slammed him hard with all my might. And that, my friends, is how I ended the fight. He never saw it coming, he never felt it hit. He thought I'd fight fair, I said, hey, fuck that shit. He fell to the floor, I kicked him in the gut. I was yelling and a cussing, calling him a mutt. If you don't want trouble, don't start a fight. 'Cause my friends, you won't end it up right. Be a time when you meet a player who don't fight fair, you don't have a prayer. Before you get going, you're down on the floor. Knocked out cold, can't take anymore. Before you make a move, you know ain't right. Don't you go starting a fight. He never saw it coming, he never felt it hit. He thought I'd fight fair, I said, hey, fuck that shit. He fell to the floor, I kicked him in the gut. I was yelling and a cussing, calling him a mutt. If you don't want trouble, don't start a fight. 'Cause my friends, you won't end it up right. That's right, man. You better listen to me. I got a mean rifle. Watch out now. Here it comes. If you're enjoying the Bloody Aussie Battler podcast, please consider donating to help keep us going. You can donate just once or make it a monthly donation. Any amount is welcome. To donate, go to our website at www.thebloodyauziebattler.com and click on Donate.